Hello everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am doing my 30 in 30 manga challenge wrap up. So this month in September, we had another round of the 30 in 30 manga challenge. This is hosted by Isabel from Happy For Now and Shay from Shay Geeks Out. I will leave their information linked down below. And we are challenged to try to read 30 volumes of manga in 30 days. And I actually did 31, and I'm currently filming this video on September 30th, so I for sure hit that challenge, and we are here today to wrap it up. So I did one book more than I needed to, but I will explain why I fit one extra one in there as we get through the list. I am just going to be going from least favorite to most favorite, and the good thing is everything that I read this month were 3 stars or higher. Now for my ratings with manga, I don't have as many half stars as I sometimes do with books, and my 3-star ratings is just sort of like middle of the road. There were some good things, some not so good things. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to finish it. It depends on the book series. 4 stars are really, really good, but not quite favorites. Things that I do definitely want to continue with though. And then 5 stars are like my absolute favorites. And the good thing is we only had 5 3-star books. We had 13 4-star books and 13 5-star books, and for the 5 stars as we get up there, just let me tell you, it was super hard to actually put it in an order. Like the top 10 5-star manga books that I have for this wrap up here were like neck and neck. Like I don't even know, like my order could change at any time just because of the fact that I don't think those top 10 are actually in an order. I love them all so much, like equally. But we are going to start at the bottom, like I said, with the 3-star reads. My first set of 3 stars are the first 3 books in Anonymous Noise. This is by Ryoko Fukuyama. So I have volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3 here. And this is one that is supposed to follow a girl and music. And basically is like when she's around 8 years old, she had a best friend who lived next door to her, and she and him would sing all the time, but he had to move away. And then because she was grieving him moving away, she meets another boy who helps her to sing again, but then he also like moves away, and then it jumps years later to when they're in high school and they meet up again, but things aren't like easy for them. And this is just one where I don't think I connected to any single character, and I was very indifferent to it. I actually own the first 5 volumes of this series, and I read the first 3. I was trying to read all 5 for the 30 in 30 manga challenge, but I decided after the first 3 that I actually don't think I'm going to finish this series. I just have no connection to any character. I went in expecting a little bit more romance, and I think there is supposed to be some later on, but when I decided to DNF this, I did actually look up some reviews, and I don't like how some of the reviews are. Like, I looked up spoilers, and so it's not like I don't like the reviews. I don't like the spoilers that it was telling me, as in like I know I would get even more mad at the series further down the road, and so it's just not something that is for me specifically, but I did read the first 3 volumes of this. My next 3 stars is Carnival. This is the omnibus edition, so while this is 1 volume and I counted it as 1 volume, I think it has 2 to 3 actual volumes in here, and this is by Toya Mikanagi. This one I liked slightly better than Anonymous Noise because it is weird. However, I feel like there is something off about this one. This one follows a boy who seems to be very naive, very unknowledgeable about the world, and he is trying to find somebody that he used to live with, and he gets thrown into these crazy situations. There's monsters, there's like a spy network almost. I have no idea what's going on. Part of this could be translation issues. Like there was just parts in this book where I didn't understand what decisions were being made. I didn't understand how we got from point A to point B. I didn't understand why certain dialogue choices were happening. Like there was one part specifically in here, and I don't think this is going to be a spoiler whatsoever, but we had a scene that felt like maybe a memory or a flashback or something that was not attached to the direct line of what was happening, and I was a little confused about like why that was in there, but I was like, okay, we're gonna get knowledge about this later. I don't know who these people are, I don't know anything about this. And then we have one of our characters ask our main character, so you're a boy, right? And I was like, so is he a boy, is he not a boy? Because the flashback scene or whatever it was before that question was like directly before that question was about a girl, and I'm like, the art style here, the main character could have been that girl, but then I don't think he is because he is a boy, and so I was just confused, and I don't know why, if it was the question that I didn't understand, like why it was there, or if it actually is just confusing. And so this does also have things like, I'm curious about the monsters, I'm curious about, you know, what this story is supposed to be, because there is some action and stuff in here. However, I don't think I'm curious enough to finish this, because like I said, this is the omnibus edition, and there are multiple omnibus editions. Like I think this series in general is like 20 something volumes of like individual volumes, and I just don't think I could continue reading it because I'm confused about how this story gets, like I said, from point A to point B. And then my last 3 stars that I have here is going to be Censor by Junji Ito. So I absolutely love Junji Ito's work, and this is one of the newer ones. It is not a short story collection, it is just a story. It's actually pretty short, and I feel very similar about this one as I did Remina, which I read a couple months ago. It's just, I don't think sci-fi is necessarily the genre that Junji Ito should be writing in. This one follows a character who gets swept up in a like volcanic eruption that has these golden hairs come down, and things go from there. It does have a sci-fi turn to it near the middle to end of the book. And this one I did like slightly more than Remina because of the fact that it does actually have more horror elements. Like, let me just show you that. So Remina only had a couple like actual like horror elements in it. This had more, but the why of the story, the reasoning behind the story, the sci-fi aspect, I don't feel like it fit together very well, and so I was just a little disappointed because there are a lot of things that Junji Ito does that I absolutely love, like 4 or 5 stars. I absolutely love a lot of his short stories as well, but both of the books so far that have been more sci-fi based, I have not enjoyed. So moving into our 4 stars, the first one I have here is actually an ebook, and that is going to be Devil's Line by Ryo Hanada. This one is weird. Throughout some of reading this, I was going to potentially give it a slightly lower rating, but I do think I'm intrigued enough to want to potentially continue with this eventually. This one is very, very dark, very mature, and it has to do with vampires. There are some issues in here with the vampire bloodlust, also leaning into sexual desire, and so there are some like non-consensual types of feelings, and I think there is some sexual assault type of stuff in here as well, so just be aware of that. But yeah, it's a very dark vampire type of thing. I'm curious enough to continue in this series eventually. The next 4 stars I have here is Tsubasa Volume 1, which is by Clamp. So I did actually not realize this until I finished with this book and everything. Clamp is actually a writing group. It was bigger back in the day, like when this was first coming out around like the early 2000s. It is a much smaller group now, although they're apparently still continuing on with stuff. And it's an all-female writing group. I had no idea about that until I was looking things up, but I read Tsubasa. So now I read Tsubasa because I also read xxxHolic by Clamp. I read xxxHolic because I have seen the anime before, and I think I saw that it's on Crunchyroll or something like that, and it's been a few years since I've watched it, so I feel like I want to get back into it, and because I did not finish the 5 volumes I had of Anonymous Noise, I needed more books to read. So I picked up xxxHolic Volume 1. I was not planning on reading Tsubasa this month, but I forgot that I had been told previously these series overlap. And so I got to the end of xxxHolic, and it introduces the characters in this first book, and I was like, ooh, I do remember somebody telling me something about that. Not only that, it does appear that almost all of Clamp's works are in the same sort of universe. Like, they overlap quite a bit. This is the one that overlaps the most. Like, the reading order for this series, or I should say these two series, are basically book 1, book 2, book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4. Like, it's just they keep going. Like, you need to sort of read them back and forth. And I gave both of these 4 stars, and I really do think I want to continue with both of these series. I do think I like xxXHolic a little bit better because so far in this first volume, it is more contained. It's more self-contained. And it does seem to follow the anime, or the anime follows this pretty closely so far, because this follows Watanuki, who is our main character, who can see like spirits, and he ends up wandering into Yoko's house, who is a witch who can sort of grant wishes, and so we've gotten to slowly see that kind of thing. She and some of the people that are in her house are very, very weird, so it is a weird one to start to get into to read, because they just sort of throw you into it, and you learn things as Watanuki learns things, but I absolutely love the anime, and this holds up very well. But then, like I said, it jumps into this one. Now this one, I wasn't entirely sure how much I liked it at the beginning, because this one is an alternate reality version of Cardcaptor Sakura. I have not read that one. Apparently you don't really need to read that one to read this one. It's more about cameos of characters, but our two main characters here are Sakura and, I don't know if I can pronounce his name, Sayorin, who are, I guess, characters, like main characters of Cardcaptor Sakura, and this is in a different, like, alternate reality where she is a princess, and he is going to be the main character trying to, like, help save the world and her and stuff. But yeah, there's also cameos from this book in this book. There's also apparently cameos of other Clamps work in here, and so it's like a space-time continuum type of series. But the more I have read into it, like once we got to the end of the first volume, I was like, you know what? It's better than I thought, even though it's completely different than this. But in order to read this one, I sort of need to read this one. Otherwise, if I do read this one later, this will have spoilers for that because they overlap so freaking much. So I've read volume 1 of each. I want to continue. However, I looked up purchasing these in the omnibus editions because it seems to be the way that it is now. It doesn't seem like they get sold in these individual editions very much. Like, I picked these up secondhand at Bookman's like years ago. It's gonna be like over $200 and something to eventually buy the entire series and read it. So I'm gonna probably slowly work my way through this, but just keep this in mind. One, very, very good paranormal, sci-fi-ish time travel stuff, but they fit together, and so yeah. Can we even see this one? It's so light that it doesn't, there we go. I also read Prince Freya Volume 4 by Keiko Ishihara. I read the first 3 last year. The first book, I believe, I gave 4 stars. The second 2, I gave 5 stars. And this one, I'm giving 4 stars again, just because we got to the end of a battle in the last volume, and it very quickly wrapped up in this one and became slightly more political. And I'm just like, I want more of that action, and I want more of the character development. But this series as a whole follows our main character of Freya, who ends up taking the prince's place after he is assassinated in the first one, because she looks identical to him, and so she is now being the prince for the kingdom because there are political things going on, wars and stuff going on. I really do like this series. I'm just hoping for a little bit more in the next volumes. This is also one that doesn't quite want to show up. Here we go. I also read Starcrossed Volume 2. This is by Junko. This one is a good, solid, like, fun type of book. This follows our main characters that are both on here. One is a pop star, like in a boy band, and one is his #1 fan. And in the first volume at the very beginning, they're at a concert and they basically have an accident and die there, but they weren't supposed to die. They come back down to earth in the wrong bodies, and now they sort of interchangeably switch. Like I said, solid, fun story. There is a little bit of like semi-fan service kind of stuff in here, which is a little bit uncomfortable for me as a 31-year-old woman, because these characters are supposed to be like in high school, but overall I like the concept. And then in this volume specifically, there was a bonus story at the back that was actually quite long about some of the characters in a previous work of Junko's, which is Kiss Him Not Me, which is again a very solid manga with some little like fan service things, a little bit of like fat phobic things, which again, those parts were not as good, but I do think it was a good story overall, and it was like an epilogue to some of the characters, and I do think that was a very fun story. Like, again, I feel like it was sort of needed in Kiss Him Not Me, so I don't know why we're getting it necessarily in this one, but I thought that was a good bonus. The next ones I have here are Love in Focus, the entire series by Yoko Nogiri. It's only 3 books, and this one is a very solid series. I gave all 3 of the books 4 stars. So we have volume 1, again, with these white backgrounds. They just don't want to really pull up, do they? 1, 2, 3. And this follows our main character of Mako, who is going to a new high school because they have a photography club, and this whole series is basically about a love triangle. It's between her, a new boy at the school who does not like photography like at all, and her childhood best friend, this one here. And so it is a slice of life, only 3 volume story that is very, very cute, but at the same time, I just felt like it needed a little bit more like character development, a little bit more romance, because it's only 3 volumes, and it felt like it went by very quickly, but we didn't get like as much as I was hoping for. But it is still very, very solid, very, very quick and fun to read, which is why it's here in my tons of manga, because like I said, I read a lot, but it is a good solid 4 stars. Then the next one we have here is A School Frozen in Time Volume 2. This is by Naoshi Arakawa on art and Mizuki Sujimura for the story. This series is currently coming out in English right now. However, it was originally written, I think, in the early 2000s. Like, it was published in 2008 originally in Japan, and this one, I gave the first volume in this series a 3.5 because it was more than a 3, where I didn't really know if I wanted to continue. Like, I knew I wanted to continue, but it wasn't as solid as I would have hoped for. However, this one definitely moved its way to like a higher 4-star rating, and I'm very intrigued by this premise. I will let you know this has content warnings and trigger warnings for suicide stuff. We don't have anything exactly on page, like where you can see stuff happen. However, this book has a lot to do with suicide and discussions of it, so definitely keep that in mind. Basically, the whole premise of this book is a group of students go to school one day and they're the only ones there. They try to leave school, but they can't. The doors won't open, the windows won't open, they can't get out, and they realize it is because one of their classmates committed suicide at a school festival, and they don't remember who it is. And they think it's one of them that is currently locked in the school. And so in the 2 volumes so far that we have, especially in this one, we are getting them trying to figure out who did what. And we are slowly starting to get focuses on some of the students that are in the school right now, of like what they were doing during class and their personalities. And that was the one thing that I felt was a little bit lacking in the first volume. I didn't have a connection to any of the characters, and we are definitely slowly getting there. And we only have 2 volumes left. This is a 4-volume manga series, and I just want to know what happened. Who killed themselves? How did this happen? Why were all of these students trapped in the school currently because of that? Like, it is a whole big mystery. There is, like I said, a lot of talk of the suicide and stuff like that, because it is the major, like, thing that everything revolves around in this story. But as long as you're okay with reading that kind of stuff, I do think the actual mystery and stuff that we're getting right now is very intriguing. And then the next 4 stars I have here, they're also white, so let's see if we can see them on camera. A little bit. It's Perfect World Volumes 1, 2, and 3 by Rie Aruga. So this one, again, quite high 4 stars. I almost felt like a couple of these I would have given 5 stars because of the endings. Like, Volume 2 and Volume 3 have like cliffhanger type of endings, and they pull at my heartstrings, and I love when books do that. However, so far I don't think they're quite 5-star reads. Like, I do think they're probably closer to 4, maybe 4.5, we'll see. But this follows 2 characters who were classmates in high school, and they meet up in their late 20s, and they start to have a relationship. And one of them is now paralyzed, I think from like the waist down, and so they are trying to deal with their relationship, a romantic relationship, with the fact that he has a disability and some stigmas that come along with that, with society and family and that kind of stuff. And so that is what this is. We have, like I said, I read 1, 2, and 3. I'm really, really enjoying these. One thing I will say is this is written from the caretaker's point of view. Like, it is not written from his point of view except for like tiny little scenes here and there. But I was looking up stuff, and the author of this series is writing it because her mother had become disabled near the end of her life, and so she is basing it on some of her experiences of that. And so even though it is based on the caretaker role more than like what he is, I feel like that's better than trying to take over somebody else's story who is disabled. But we are getting a lot of like harsh realities of this disability, specifically of being paralyzed. Like, they are not cutting any corners in the writing of this and the portrayal of this. Some of it is very hard hitting and very like, this is the bleak reality of some of this stuff. Like, they talk about bowels and bowel movements and like bed sores and things that like could happen and do happen to people that have this disability. And a lot of it is our main female character, who is more in that caretaker role, trying to come to terms with it and realize that like she didn't know this kind of stuff happened. So far, I'm really appreciating the like way that this is told. There are no frills and flowery things going on around this. It is strictly like, this is them dealing with their life and their relationship. And like I said, it tugs at my heartstrings sometimes, especially when like the last two that I read ended in a cliffhanger. And like volume 2, I had volume 3. However, I only picked up the first 3 volumes at my store when I first bought this because I didn't know if I was gonna like it. However, a lot of people do like it, so I had very high hopes for it. But this did also end on a cliffhanger where I'm just like, why don't I have more in this series? I need to continue, and I will, but I just didn't want to buy more than I already did because a lot of these ones that I'm talking about right now, I purchased last month. My haul was huge. But yes, definitely think this is something that you guys should check out. I am curious about some people that actually do have this specific disability, how they felt about the portrayal of it, because again, the author is writing it from their perspective of taking care of somebody that had it, not they had it themselves. And then my last 4-star read is Given Volume 1 by Natsuki Kizu. I'm going to talk about this at the same time I talk about Volume 2, which I did give 5 stars. So I do think Volume 2 got better. Like, I'm very, very intrigued by this series as well. This is a boys love, male romance series about a band. This I really love the art style of. I like the fact that one of the characters is sort of new to music and they're getting into like why they're doing certain things. One thing I also do appreciate is because I think half of the band is in high school, there have not been any like overtly sexual things in this. Sometimes when you hear boys love romance, you do think some of those like ones that are a little bit more risque or a little bit more graphic. And I'm not saying this is not gonna get there, but I do appreciate not having that when we're mostly talking about teens. But yeah, so far we have some really good character development. I'm absolutely loving the fact that not everything was happy from the beginning, and this is just, you know, 2 volumes in so far. I'm really, really enjoying it. I like the fact that it is based on music and you can sort of feel that they're talking about music even though it is just on page. Like, we're not listening to anything, but I feel like that is portrayed very, very well, and I'm looking forward to continuing this series. Then my next 5 stars are Those Not So Sweet Boys Volume 2 and 3 by Yoko Nogiri. Again, because of the white covers, it is very hard to see. There we go. This one, I read Volume 1 a few months ago, earlier this year sometime, I don't remember, but I'm really enjoying this. I actually do like this a little bit more than Love and Focus by Yoko Nogiri, which I talked about earlier in my 4-star ratings, just because I do feel like it has a little bit more characterization. It has a little bit more development in the relationships and the friendships in here, and it's probably because this is one of the newer series. Like, it is still actually ongoing currently, and this one follows a girl who has a part-time job after school, which she is not supposed to have, and the vice principal, I think, finds out, and instead of like kicking her out of school or making her quit her job, gives her like a task. You can keep your job as long as you also go get these boys and bring them back to school and make them, you know, stay in school. And so it is one of those ones that, like, again, feels very slice of life, you know, high school drama, romance, that kind of stuff, but the characterization of this one is what I've been absolutely loving. Like, I just feel it so much more than Love and Focus, and I'm not like trying to necessarily compare them, except for it's the same author, but yeah, this one, again, really, really quick to read. I'm really loving it, and I can't wait for more. Now, the last ones that I'm going to talk about, these are the ones that I literally had the hardest time putting in an order. And this order that I have here, I don't even know if it's necessarily the right order, because these top 10 books that I read this month were literally 5 out of 5 stars. So are like the last couple I talked about, but like 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely love so much. Favorite books. I don't think I could actually say which one is my most favorite, so just keep that in mind. Everything that I'm talking about from here on out, they're all phenomenal. So the first one I have in those is Boys Run the Riot Volume 2 by Keito Gaku. This is a continuation of the first one that I read a couple months ago. I am so in love with the series. It follows a trans teen who still has to present as a girl in school, even though he is not a girl, he is a boy, and he is trying to come to terms with like telling people in his life because of culture and family and school and all this kind of stuff. And so him and a classmate, though, decide to start a clothing brand, and we're getting more into the development of that clothing brand. Now, there are some harder topics in this one than in the first one. This does talk about him still having to go to school and present differently than what he is. This volume specifically does mention like the gender dysphoria, and so there are definitely some hard and or triggering topics in here. However, I absolutely love the character development that we have. I feel like this is a very important story, especially since our author is also trans mask, and it seems like he has been pulling some real life situations to put into this. Like, I'm sure most of what we are supposed to feel for our characters are things that like the character feels that he felt as he was growing up. And so yeah, I definitely need the third and fourth book like as soon as possible. Then I continued with The Promised Neverland, so I have volume 8, 9, and 10 here. I am so into this series. This one here, we are now past the anime, or at least the first season of the anime, because that's all I watched first, and then I started reading the manga, and I think there's a second season of this, but I wanted to finish the manga first. And we are just getting into really action parts, really dark parts. It is so quick paced though, like I need more after volume 10. But yeah, that's what we have, volume 8, 9, and 10. And this, I can't tell you much about at all, except for the fact that I'm absolutely loving it. Like, when I'm reading these, I cannot put them down. But this follows a group of orphans who live in a house with their mother, who is the person that takes care of them, and it goes from there. Like, I literally cannot tell you anything about this, even though this is past what the anime is too. Like, we are so much on a different direction than I ever thought we were going to be, but it doesn't surprise me. This is the type of book that this is, and I need to continue. Then I also have Sweat and Soap Volume 2 by Kentetsu Yamada. This one sounds so weird. I actually read Volume 1 last month, and I now read Volume 2 this month. I would actually have bought more and continued, but my store didn't have Volume 3 currently, but I absolutely love the series. It sounds so weird, but it is so good. This follows two people who work at a company that develops fragrances and soaps. One is the guy who is like one of the fragrance developers, and the other is our female character who works in accounting. And they basically start a relationship because he likes the way she smells. He likes to sniff her and get inspiration. And like I said, it sounds so weird, but it is so pure. Their relationship, the way that they talk to each other about stuff, the way that they're growing together, I absolutely love this couple and this romance so much. I did not expect it just because of how weird the summary sounds. This is one of my new favorites. Like, I absolutely love them and this story, and like the relationship is just top notch. I need to read more in this series, like 100%. But yeah, so good. Then we're getting down to the bottom here. I read the last 4 out of 5 volumes of I Hear the Sunspot by Yuki Fumino. So I read the first volume a couple years ago, I want to say, and I gave that one 4 stars because this is a romance, slice of life, coming of age type of thing, but it is very slow burn. So we didn't really get much in the first one for romance. It was definitely more of a starting to develop a friendship type of thing, and it was still really solid, really good. But ever since we got to this second one, like, all 4 of these have been phenomenal. So we do have I Hear the Sunspot, Theory of Happiness, Limit Volume 1, Limit Volume 2, and Limit Volume 3. I don't quite know why the first 2 books in this series are standalones and then this one is like a trilogy in it, but you do have to read them in order to get the whole story. But it is very much a male-male romance, boys love romance, slow burn, sort of angsty, but they're trying to figure out who they are, coming of age type of thing. They are in college in this one, and I just love how their friendship developed and then how their relationship developed, and it is like real life. They have struggles, things are going on, they have to overcome them, but also one of our characters here is hard of hearing, and so we do have a lot of good conversations about deaf and hard of hearing disabilities, and so this has everything. Like, this is one of my new absolute favorite series. Like, I absolutely love this 100%. It tore at my heartstrings multiple times. So good. And then we're down to the last volume. The last volume here is Blue Flag Volume 8 by Kaito. This is the last book from Blue Flag. I'm a little bit sad that it's over because this is one of my favorites. Like, this was my favorite manga series of last year and I got to finish it this year. This is so good. The ending was so good. I was scared to go into it just because I knew it was ending, not because I expected it to end badly, but just because it was ending, and I absolutely love this one. This is another one that has the sort of like coming of age element, the friendship and relationship element. This is all revolving around a group of friends. There's 3 on the cover because we do actually have a 4th character who is there, but these are the ones that it seems to have as like the main characters. And it's all about them having friendships and falling in love, and there's LGBTQ characters in here, and it's just, it's messy, but it's good. So good. And it's like real life. Like, the ending, I think, was the perfect ending for this book. And I know, I mean, I don't know how people could necessarily be mad at it, but I could imagine there might be people, because it's a little bit open-ended, but it ends like life, and I'm just, something about this was just so good. This series in general is just so good. And yeah, I mean, I should not have been as scared as I was, just because now I can reread everything if I would like to, but this is one of my absolute favorites, like, so much, and it was the perfect ending. And that was everything. All 31 books that I did read in September. Again, I would like to thank Isabel and Shay for hosting this. I sometimes need that little nudge to actually read more manga. I do read manga almost every single month, but it's only maybe a couple volumes because I do feel like I read novels a little bit more and then I get a backlog. But that's okay because we do these things and I have a great time doing it. A lot of these I need to continue with the series, but I had some really good ones this month, and I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos up Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!